Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept a humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Sri Prabhupada. All glories to our repeated speaker for today, His Grace, Madam Gopal Prabhu. And all glories to Samuel Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here as always. It is our greatest honor. Again, we have His Grace with us. I'm personally so excited to hear Prabhuji. And Prabhuji is so busy. Somehow he finds ways to make time with us all. And we appreciate that so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for rendering this service to the Hare Krishna Africa audience. Thank you so much. And let me say, you usually share your screen, so you may be able to do that. Yes. All right, Prabhuji, so you have the rights to share. So you may go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. My obeisances to all of you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sadhya Prabhu, and all the devotees organizing the Hare Krishna Africa channel. I'm always in your debt for inviting me, and I'm always appreciative of all the efforts you're doing to share Prabhupada's divine knowledge and serving his mission in Africa. And any devotees who join this, it's really nice of you to make your time for this. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yutapadakkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our Bhagavatam lessons from the third canto, chapter 15. So I'm going to share that screen. Let's see. So the verses today that we're going to cover are texts 28 and 29. Very interesting scene happening over here. So text number 28. Matta dvire pavana malikaya nivito vinyastaya sita chatushtaya bahu madhye vaktram bruva kutilaya sputa nirgamabhyam rakte kshanena cha managrabhasam dadhano. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The two doormen were garlanded with fresh flowers which attracted intoxicated bees, and which were placed around their necks and between their 4 blue arms. From their arched eyebrows, discontented nostrils, and reddish eyes, they appeared somewhat agitated. Purport. Their garlands attracted swarms of bees because they were garlands of fresh flowers. In the Vaikuntha world, everything is fresh, new, and transcendental. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha have bodies of bluish color and 4 hands like Narayan. And of course, here you'll notice the translation that they're a little agitated. The arched eyebrows, you know how you want to draw an angry person, you arch their eyebrows a little bit. Discontented nostrils and so on. Verse 29. Dvarye tayor nivivishur mishatora prishtva Purva yatha purata vajra kapatikaya Sarvatra te vishamaya munaya svadrishtya Ye sancharantya vidhata vigata bhishanka. The great sages, headed by Sanak, had opened doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds, they entered the 7th door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the 6 other doors, which are made of gold and diamonds. Purport. The great sages, namely Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar, although very old in years, maintained themselves eternally as small children. They were not at all duplicitous, and they entered the doors exactly as little children enter places without any idea of what it is to trespass. That is a child's nature. A child can enter any place and no one checks him. Indeed, a child is generally welcome in his attempts to go places. But if it so happens that a child is checked from entering a door, he naturally becomes very sorry and angry. That is the nature of a child. In this case, the same thing happened. The childlike, saintly personalities entered all the 6 doors of the palace, and no one checked them. Therefore, when they attempted to enter the 7th door, and were forbidden by the doormen, who checked them with their sticks, they naturally became very angry and sorrowful. An ordinary child would cry, but because these were not ordinary children, they immediately made preparations to punish the doormen, for the doormen had committed a great offense. Even to this day, a saintly person is never checked from entering anyone's door in India. So, many beautiful thoughts are expressed in this particular segment. Just gonna share. It's Bhagavatam lessons. Let's see if I got my, yeah. Here we go. So you can see this picture. This section of Bhagavatam marks a dramatic and deliberate shift in consciousness. Look at the whole 3rd canto. Until now, we've been moving through creation, cosmology, the workings of material nature, the anatomy of material bondage. It's very interesting. And then almost suddenly, Shukadeva Goswami opens a door that does not belong to this universe at all. Up till now, it's all about our universe. But this door doesn't belong to our universe. He takes us to Vaikuntha. This chapter is not simply a description of the spiritual realm. It is a revelation of a culture, spiritual culture, culture of the spiritual world. Vaikuntha. Kuntha means anxiety. Vai means there is none. It's free from anxiety. A culture where fear does not exist. Not at all. Where suspicion is unknown. Where no one is guarding themselves against anyone else. Vaikuntha is not anxiety free because it has strong security systems. It is anxiety free because the hearts that live there are transparent. And that immediately raises a serious question for long-term for practicing devotees. What kind of consciousness is actually fit to live in such a place? You can see, this Bhagavatam, if you read it very carefully, it gives us so many, just this verse, these two verses, it gives us so much insight into these nuances of consciousness. So what kind of consciousness is suitable or fit to live in a place like Vaikuntha, like amazing spiritual world? It's not cleverness. It's not emotional sophistication. It's not even austerity by itself. The main characters who walk into Vaikuntha in this chapter are the four great sages, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar. Now, these four childlike looking devotees, they are among the most ancient beings in existence. Older than most of the universe itself. It's mind-blowing. It's like something out of a crazy movie or something. And yet this is reality. This is how they hang out. And you can see how they roll. They don't particularly care for wearing clothes, apparently. But they're just little children. They're like barely just out of toddler age, This is not poetic imagery. This is a theological, philosophical statement. The Bhagavatam is telling us very clearly, the spiritual world runs on a level of inner simplicity that most adults, including most religious adults, no longer possess. It's quite amazing. So the first verse we read today was verse 28. Verse 28 was about, it describes how much opulence the doorkeepers have, but also describes the mood of the doorkeepers, which is fascinating to see. So our attention is drawn to the two doorkeepers. Later on, they're revealed to be Jai and Vijay. They're described as four-armed, blue-bodied, resembling Lord Narayan himself. So very beautiful. And the garlands, the fresh flowers on the garlands are so fresh that intoxicated bees are swarming around them. Prabhupada emphasizes a crucial point, but it's a very subtle point in the purport. It's important. It says, in Vaikuntha, everything is fresh, new, and transcendental. Nothing decays. There's no non-fresh stuff. You'll never find a strawberry there that's moldy. Nothing decays. Nothing stagnates. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes that in the spiritual world, the time factor is conspicuous by its absence. What does that mean? Does that mean nobody has to wear a watch? Yes, that's one way, but the thing is, what is the time factor anyway? How do you measure the time factor? Of course, you measure by watch, or you have, the position of the sun, or how many times, the sun has moved around, the earth has moved around the sun, and so many things. But what really is the time factor? It is the decaying effect. So when you see someone's face who's grown really old, 95, oh yeah, I can see the effect of time on your face. Last time I saw you were 60 years old, now you're 95 years old. So, the time effect has definitely, you can see the difference. What's the difference? It's the decay, the time factor. If we look back at our own pictures 25 years ago, quite different from what we look like right now. Most of us look a little bit different. At least some difference will be there. There's a time factor. In the spiritual world, nothing decays, nothing stagnates. And yet the Bhagavatam describes something unexpected here. These doorkeepers appear somewhat agitated. It says somewhat agitated. The eyebrows are arched, their nostrils flare, the eyes are reddish. They should make a pause. Wait a minute, these are not conditioned souls. They're not demons. They're exalted servants in the spiritual world. And yet we see a trace of agitation. Why? Because service in the spiritual realm is not judged merely by position. It's judged by alignment of the heart. Even a slight deviation toward judgment or judgmentalism, toward selfish protectivism, towards checking another living being is enough. Is enough to create a disturbance. This is an advanced lesson. Gross offenses come from gross ignorance, but subtle offenses, they arise from subtle distortions of consciousness. Especially the distortion of thinking, I must guard and evaluate based on externals. I must decide who belongs, who doesn't belong here. Oh, these are just kids. Where did they come from? They don't belong here. So then we move to verse 29. We learn about the fearlessness of these saints, these childlike saints. This verse 29 reveals the inner nature of the Kumaras. They passed through door after door freely, without asking permission, without the need to ask for permission, without hesitation, without suspicion, very happily, very peacefully. The Bhagavatam uses powerful words. They are Vigata Bhishanka. Vigata means without. Abhishanka. Shanka means doubt. Abhishanka means thorough doubt. Without any kind of doubt. Vigata Abhishanka. Free from doubt. They have no conception of ours and theirs. This is my property, this is your property. This is Krishna's land. This creation belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to you or me. And as Krishna's children, we are free to go anywhere we want. We're not creating any disturbances. We're just going about our business, doing something positive for wherever we go. So they don't have this concept of ours and theirs. Prabhupada puts that in quotes. So Prabhupada explains with startling clarity. These sages are not duplicitous. They enter exactly as little children enter places, without any concept of trespassing. A child like this does not enter a room thinking, oh, how will I be perceived? A little child doesn't wonder, am I allowed here? A little child does not carry strategies or defenses. The child is plain in heart, plain. And it's interesting to note, Srila Prabhupada repeatedly instructed his disciples with the phrase that sounds simple but is actually radical. He says, be plain. Don't be duplicitous. Be plain. Plain, it's P-L-A-I-N, plain, does not mean foolish. Okay, he doesn't say be foolish, he says be plain. Plain does not mean irresponsible. Doesn't mean if you're plain you don't do what you need to do, what needs to be done. Plain means there is no gap between what's inside and outside. What you see is what you get. So what you see outside is what is there inside. There's no difference. This is why saintly persons are trusted. Not because they demand trust, but because trust naturally flows toward transparency. I'm sure we all have experience. We get a sense when we meet somebody, this person is very trustworthy. I mean, I can really trust this person. Like right away, we just met in 5 minutes, but you get a good feeling about a person. Just their body language, the way they speak, the way they talk, the cleanliness of their heart. It is visible through their eyes, through the plainness of their language, through their empathy. I can really trust this person. We all of us have an innate sense. Some of us have better sense than others. Some of us are more gullible or whatever. We trust everybody. But some of us, when we have a keen sense, we can see this person is really trustworthy. Especially when a person is very plain at heart. So it's not that they're demanding trust, but trust naturally flows when you see the transparency. So the core theme here that we want to explore is how can we cultivate a heart free from duplicity. So as devotees mature, the obstacles they face become more refined. Beginners struggle with desire. Intermediate devotees struggle with distraction. And advanced devotees struggle with something far more subtle, and that's duplicity. Duplicity means what? Duplicity means managing impressions. When I'm with this circle of people, I have to make sure I wear this mask, and so on and so forth. It means saying one thing while meaning another. It means performing humility while we're quietly protecting our ego. It means serving. Yes, we serve. Even serve diligently. But while still, in a subtle way, being attached and controlling of the outcomes. This duplicative or duplicitous consciousness cannot survive in Vaikuntha. Why? Because Vaikuntha operates on absolute trust. There is just no infrastructure for suspicion. The moment duplicity enters, the atmosphere is disturbed. Because duplicity means not truthful. And Krishna is absolute truth. There's absolutely no place for untruth. This is why the Kumaras, they deliberately remain childlike, children. not just for the gross sense gratification part, also that's also part of it, but childlike consciousness cannot sustain duplicity for very long. They're considered very sweet. There's no capacity, you can say, for image management. They are who they are. That's why when they get angry, you can see it right in their face. There is no long-term strategy for self-protection. They just depend on their guardians, like completely, free. Who's going to protect me? I'm with my Father. So when we have that mindset, I'm going to be free from duplicity. My Father is right here, Krishna. He's always with me. He'll protect me. Of course, doesn't mean that we become gullible and foolish, things like that. We talked about that. So, like I said, there's no long-term strategy for self-protection. This is also why Srila Prabhupada observed that in traditional culture, saintly persons are not checked at doors. Trust is extended instinctively to those who are plain. And when a devotee of Krishna becomes plain, something extraordinary happens. Their presence actually relaxes people. Their words carry weight. Even their silence feels safe. And sometimes someone is very powerful, but they're very controlling. When they're silent, you feel scared. Oh no, why is he silent? But when a pure devotee is silent, even that silence is soothing and safe. That's the nature of these exalted souls, these saints. We feel relaxed around them. There is an unmistakable integrity that others feel immediately. Even if they can't articulate it, that integrity is so powerful that others feel it and they're inspired to be that way or work toward it. This is not a projection. This is not even what you call charisma. This is spiritual credibility. And credibility inspires trust. And when that credibility is deep, it inspires awe. It even inspires us to surrender to the source of that. It inspires us to surrender to Krishna. So the Kumaras, when they're stopped at this seventh gate, naturally they have a reaction, and the reaction is intense. An ordinary child would cry. They rub their eyes, red. Now what? Where do I go from here? But these childlike sages didn't cry. They cursed. These dwarpalas, these gatekeepers. Why such a strong response? Cursing, really? They're just doing their job. Why is such a strong response? Because to doubt obvious purity is not a small mistake. It's not trivial. It's a violation of the culture of the spiritual world. To check a pure heart is to misunderstand how Vaikuntha functions. For devotees, this is a sobering warning. If we subtly position ourselves as gatekeepers of others' sincerity, we may unknowingly block the flow of mercy in our own lives. The instinct to externally evaluate, to be constantly testing, to guard based on externals, it often masquerades as responsibility. But this is usually rooted in fear rather than a sense of service. This is reflected also, if you remember, in the Nectar of Instruction, where Rupa Goswami says a devotee should not be judged by externals. Just like the Gangam Basam, just like the water of the Ganga remains pure, even if there's some foam or there's mud, but the purifying effect of the water is still there. So if a devotee has some deformed thing or something wrong with the complexion, that's not a consideration. And then if we evaluate, we test based on those things in the name of responsibility. Of course, this sort of thing also, we see it manifest in a gross way in this world. We have a sense that we should treat each other with respect as human beings. We should see each other as equals, as all children of God. But in spite of that inner instinctive sense, we still have in this world racism, for example, in a big way. This is kind of like that. Because we have disconnected ourselves from the source, we've disconnected ourselves from our Father, we're failing to see our brothers. We're failing to say, this is my brother and this is my sister. Who are you? What do you mean, who are you? Don't you recognize me? I'm your sister. Did you recognize me? I'm your brother. What do you mean? Well, we all have a common Father. Did you forget? Oh yeah, come. Sometimes we need to remind each other. But unfortunately in this world, because of that forgetfulness of the common Father, and because of our fear, which is grounded in nothing but ignorance, these negative elements like racism and casteism and sexism, so many things, they manifest themselves. It's fear. But in this case, especially when you see these are very exalted devotees. Now you may say, how do I know how exalted they are? The gatekeepers are doing their job. These people look like kids. They're not particularly qualified. So it's definitely a bit of a dilemma. Of course, we later on find out that the whole thing was orchestrated by the Lord. These gatekeepers never really make such a mistake. It really wasn't their mistake. The Lord intentionally came and covered them over so he could facilitate them coming down, getting cursed, and becoming demons. But they'll fight and create a whole slew of adventures for the Lord to enjoy in the world. And we get so many things in the Bhagavatam from this one root. I mean, when they fall down, they first become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and we get the entire couple of cantos based on that. It's so beautiful. And then after that, Ravan and Kumbhakaran, a whole Ramayana. Amazing. I mean, it's Jai Shri Ram. So nice, the whole fight. And after that, Shishupal, Dantavakra, and so on. And Krishna comes. So, of course, that was Krishna's orchestration. So, just like Arjuna wasn't really bewildered, but he was just covered over. Similarly, these gatekeepers weren't really bewildered. This bewilderment doesn't really happen in the spiritual world. But for the purpose of this particular pastime, we see the effect that it has. And it's instructive for us to take it seriously. What is the instruction for us? Don't be judgmental based on these externals. If someone is sincere, don't block their sincerity by clouding it over with judgment. So this chapter, what it's doing, it's inviting us into an honest self-examination. Do people feel safer or more guarded around me? Why? Why do I exude such a vibe? Do I speak plainly or do I manage impressions? And do I project a persona? Can I admit confusion without making a big drama about it? Can I accept honest correction without being defensive? when I come into a room or when I come into someone's presence? Does my presence create a sense of openness, or does it create caution? So a simple daily practice can be transformative. What can we do practically then? We can pray to the Lord. Say before japa or before we're doing service, we quietly pray. My Lord, give me the courage to be plain. Give me the courage to remove my, slick cleverness in manipulating people. We're used to this. It's almost become second nature. We don't even realize we become manipulators. And it's heavy load to carry. We may become expert at managing impressions and personas, but it's a heavy load to carry. If you want to go to the spiritual world, we have to travel light. Look at these 4 Kumaras. Super light travel. No check-in baggage. No cabin baggage. No personal item. No laptop bag. Nothing. They don't even have clothes. They have Brahmin thread. And Brahmin thread doesn't cover much, actually. And then and they have neck beads. Also just covers neck. And they have the garland. I'm not proposing that we abandon our clothing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, let us give up the masks and pray to the Lord. Give me courage to be honest. Of course, we have to be careful to whom we open up to, because not everybody is trustworthy in the world. But it doesn't mean that we now start becoming manipulators. So let us meditate on this last thought. Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, is not entered by force. It's entered by fitness of the heart. What makes our heart fit to enter? It's this honesty. The 4 Kumaras teach us that this highest spiritual sophistication looks like innocence. Not childishness, but childlike transparency. A heart free from duplicity. A heart that does not calculate. A heart that trusts, and therefore, by corollary connection, is trustworthy. If we cultivate such a heart, it's not easy to do, I know, because we're so used to keeping our guards up. We've been abused in our life so many times. We can't imagine just trusting people. I understand, totally understand. And that's what makes it more challenging. But we can trust in the Lord. And we can trust that after we surrender to the Lord will take care of us. Avashya rakhibe Krishna vishvasa palan. Yes, certainly Krishna will protect me. And I'll nourish, I'll nurture, I'll protect that firm trust that Krishna is there for me. Then if we cultivate such a heart, then doors open naturally. Mercy finds us without effort from our side. And one day the gates of Vaikuntha will recognize us not by our accomplishments, but by our plainness. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for your kind attention and your valuable time. We have plenty of time for discussion on this. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Of course, as always, so beautiful. One devotee said in the chat room, Srimad Bhagavatam in 3D. And he is so right. the way you prepare to share Bhagavatam Katha in itself is amazing. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations, you may want to ask, share, please indicate by using the hand emoji, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hamsaduta Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace. Please can you my respectful obeisances. All glory to Jagad Rishra Prabhupada, and all glories to the wonderful assembled devotees. And thank you always for your wonderful class. Thank you so much. During the class, I beginning to think about so many things, and this brings me to this question about the case of the Kumaras to Jagai Magai. We see them as the demons, but they were playing the part of Krishna to play his Leela. So actually, they were not demons, because Krishna was using them to teach us something, and at the same time give us Rasima Dev. So my question is that sometimes there will be maybe a sannyasi or elevated devotee, and one way or another he can begin to do all sorts kind of abominable activities and so many things, and we will feel bad about that, because we are in this material world. We are not so mature, and like neophyte like me, if I see something like that, I become very, 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 very disturbed. That why is somebody who is so elevated are doing something like this? But at the same time, I'm beginning to think that what if Krishna is using this person to make us become aware of ourselves, that even if you reach that level, you have to be very careful, because our ego or our position or something can make us do all sorts of things. So if we see something like this in somebody who is so elevated, and he know the philosophy, he was doing what he has to do, chanting and everything, but he beginning to do all those things, do we have to condemn this person, or do we have to become aware of ourselves that maybe Krishna is using this person as an instrument for us to learn, instead of condemning this person of his activities? This is my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hamsaduta Prabhu. Obeisances.
Obeisances to you.
It's a very complex question, because the scenario has many levels to it. Your question was, is such a person, when we see this happening, should we condemn them, first of all? And second, is there a lesson for me? So of course it'll vary from situation to situation. But Srila Prabhupada was not at all supportive of the idea that if somebody, say, did something abominable, and say they left the movement and started engaging back in sinful life again, even if it was a sannyasi, a very advanced devotee, it actually happened once, and then the devotees condemned that person who had left, and when he tried to show back up again, they kind of gave him the cold shoulder. Some even said something harsh to him. And when Prabhupada heard about this, he was very heartbroken. He says, now he'll never come back. You're condemning him as blocked his way to come back again. Instead of showing love, we're condemning. That's not good. Of course, if the person is still maintaining the power and abusing people, then that person should be corrected, removed from power and so on, so they're not continues to abuse people in the movement. That also needs to be done. But we can still, as a society, show support and give opportunities for them to rebuild their path back to Krishna. Now, you brought up Jagai Madhai. Of course, they're not ordinary demons. Like you said, they're eternal associates. Jagai Madhai are the same two people. They had a bonus tour of duty, you can say, when they came back as a fourth time. They really were supposed to come 3 times, and then they had a 4th bonus tour of duty as Jagai Madhai to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So their abominable behavior was deliberately orchestrated to magnify a few things. Magnify 3 things. The limitless mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 1. 2. The extraordinary compassion and risk-taking nature of Nityananda Prabhu. And 3rd, the theological truth that nobody is beyond redemption. Even the most sinful of sinners can be redeemed. It gives us so much hope. You know what? Jagai Madhai were actors in this divine drama. They're not fallen sadhakas whose behavior we're meant to normalize. That distinction is important. So now, the harder question that you asked is, can Krishna use the fall of an advanced devotee to teach others? The answer is yes. Krishna can use anything to teach us, of course. But that does not automatically mean that the fall and the abomination that the person did was divinely scripted, like Jagai Madhai was. You see? We can hold both these truths at once without collapsing one into the other. Those are 2 different things. None of us are at the level of Jagai Madhai. They're very great souls. Our fall down is nothing compared to their exhibition of sins. We can't even commit the level of sins they did. At the same time, then we can't say that, oh yeah, me falling down, there's Leela. There's Krishna Leela to teach all of you. We can't say that. I'm always eternally liberated, so we can't say that, no. So a devotee can be advanced and still fall. Prabhupada's very clear on this, often soberingly so. Advancement in bhakti, in this bhakti process, does not mean that we're immune from subtle pride, neglected, slacking off on our sadhana, becoming complacent in our pursuit of Krishna's love. Doesn't mean we're immune from, we can associate with whoever we want and we won't be impacted by it. No, association will impact us. We're not immune from thinking beyond that I am beyond danger. Sometimes we think that, oh yeah, I've gone 3 years without breaking any principles, chanting 16 rounds and feel very clean, solid. I am now safe beyond danger. We can never think that. Prabhupada told his disciples that one of your biggest problems is that you think you're untouchable by Maya. Don't think that. Actually, what happens, high position and respectful position increases responsibility. It doesn't necessarily increase your safety. That's still always on you. Always have to safeguard. In fact, one time, I'll tell you a story. One time Prabhupada was taking darshan of deities like this, and he was just crying profusely, just praying for so long, and the devotees just saw him, and when devotee asked him, Prabhupada, I noticed you're really crying and praying. Would your divine grace care to share with us what that was about? And Prabhupada said, yes. I was praying to the Lord, please, today let me not fall into Maya. Can you imagine someone at the level of Prabhupada, who's like the sun, just his appearance delivered the whole planet. And he's saying, please, let me not fall into Maya. So you see, he's also teaching an example. Don't think you're beyond danger. If I cannot think that, you should definitely not. You see. Now, this is another very important consideration. Please listen to this carefully. A fall of a sincere, or say a very active, long-time serving devotee does not mean that the person was a fraud. It just means that they're still conditioned at a certain level. And that's something we have to also see in ourselves, that we're all conditioned at a certain level. We're not frauds. We've been trying. We're trying hard. We've given up something. We're trying to give up things, bad things. Prabhupada never taught that once you advance, you're always safe. No. He taught constant and consistent vigilance and humility. Vigilance and both need to be there. You need to be humble in front of Maya, in front of the Lord, and be vigilant. Make sure things are not creeping in, certain patterns in our subtle, mind. Now another point, Krishna may use a fall without causing the fall. Krishna can use anything. He's not the one who's causing the fall. The fall is because of our insistence and our tantrum and our rascaldom. Krishna is not the source of our rascaldom, it's us. But if we fall, Krishna can use. He does not need to engineer somebody else's degradation to teach others. But when a fall happens due to, say, my free will or negligence or unresolved conditioning, Krishna can still extract instruction from it for everybody watching. So a devotee's fall can teach lessons. We can all learn lessons when we see, oh my God, that great preacher, how did that happen? Oh, he was negligent about his association. I need to be really careful. I have a tendency to do that too, to put my guard down around certain kind of people. I should be careful. So we learn something from that without actually condemning the person. We can see Krishna is instructing us through that what we see. We don't condemn that person, and neither do we make the false claim or understanding that Krishna orchestrated that person's fall. You see. So what happens? It preserves our moral responsibility. It preserves our free will, and so on. So that actual lesson is not that advanced devotees are hypocrites. That's not the lesson. Sometimes we hear people saying that. Oh, devotees in high positions, they are hypocrites. Every one of them. And we hear people say that. The fact that they have a high position means they're a hypocrite. Like they know that they're fallen, how they can take this as a responsibility. That's the problem. That's not our lesson here. Also another lesson that's not there, position means nothing. That's not true. They've earned a particular position because they have worked hard and they're serving, and Krishna has somehow put them there. And many of them do. I've seen so many devotees take on huge responsibilities. Some of our GBCs and all, sometimes people just condemn them, that they're taking responsibility, they don't take care of me. But, most of the leaders that I've seen, that I've worked with personally, they have taken on so much responsibility and so much, they've heard so many abuses, they've heard bad words from people about them, and they just keep on serving humbly. So it's not that position means nothing. Also, it's not that everyone falls, so standards don't matter. These are conclusions that people come up with, but these are false conclusions. Everyone's going to follow these standards. Who cares? Then what are the lessons? I listed the not lessons. What are the lessons? The lesson is this. Bhakti is produced by humility, not by status. Status doesn't produce bhakti. And status without humility is quite dangerous. Spiritually dangerous. Also, no one graduates from dependence on Krishna. Okay, now I'm done. Now I no longer need to depend on Krishna. No, it's not a like grade 1, I'm done with grade 1. No, you don't graduate from it. We are always dependent on Krishna. The moment we subtly shift from dependence to overconfidence in my own self, danger increases. It's always dependent on Krishna. Every morning, reset your dependence on Krishna. Every morning, reset your humility. No matter what we accomplished yesterday, today is a new day. If I accomplished something great, we know it's by Krishna's mercy and the mercy of our gurus. If I did something rascaldom, I know that's my rascaldom. But today we reset and we ask the Lord to protect us from this overconfidence and to protect us from moving away from dependence. And if we see some fall down from somebody else, we should feel sorrow, not a thrill. If our heart feels judgmental, gossipy, or thank God he fell down, some kind of secret relief, that is our own warning sign. It's a warning sign for us when you start feeling gossipy about it. Because now at this point, it's not about them, it's about me now. Now I gotta watch out. You see, so what is a pure response? Sadness. I'm sad, the soul, it's fear for ourselves, in the sense that let's be more vigilant. Prayer for the fallen devotee. Even if that devotee has been abusive, let's pray that somehow the Lord can straighten them out properly. And then increased seriousness in our practice. These are the things that we learn every day. It should drive our own seriousness. You see? So, anyway, there's a lot more to say on this. It's a very complex topic, Prabhu. You really opened a big file, a big folder that I have on this. But I'll just stop here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer to Sadhita Prabhu's question. Sometimes I used to wonder how Arjuna will ask very lengthy question to Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit will ask lengthy questions to Shukadev Goswami. And they will remember every single question and answer them all. And you pretty much did the same thing here today. Thank you so much. Dear anybody, if anyone has something to ask or to share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand. I have tons of questions, but I would like the devotees to ask their questions. One thing I would like to say, Prabhuji, is, of course, my Gurudev is Surenes Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Maharaj. You were talking about how a leader does not impose, a leader does not force anyone to love him or things like that. We all experience this when our Gurudev would visit our zone. Nobody falls sick, because even if you're sick and you hear of his coming, the love and the joy makes the disease or illness disappear.
It just evaporates.
And once he leaves, everybody falls down, everybody falls sick. So,
you have to pay it back with interest later on.
Yes, what we do. It's so beautiful that you mentioned that. And luckily for me, I've lived through it. I have this question, Prabhuji. I have asked this question a couple of times, but since we are discussing the same theme, I will ask. We live in this material world, and based on our level of spiritual growth, most of us haven't grown to any height in spirituality. So most of our judgments, most of our conclusions are based on sentiments and external decorations. When I see a sannyasi with his danda, automatically I will pay obeisance to him. Now, if I see another person who may be as great as that sannyasi, because he is not dressed in sannyasi clothes, I may not pay obeisance to him. So in the same way, Jai Vijay, they're seeing these 4 little boys, and externally, they're thinking, who are these little boys who dare to enter into this gate? We see in Jad Bharat, he was considered to be, a madman, but he wasn't. Even our 6 Goswamis, Sanatana and Rupa, they were also mistreated because they worked for a Muslim leader. So how do we, as practicing devotees, see beyond the externals and give the appropriate respect to people? I'm finding difficulty in trying to do that because I also do not want to give the false honor to the wrong person. So if you may help, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is, thank you. This is, you mentioned we're living in the conditioned world. Our perception is immature. You don't have the vision. Our intelligence is directed, let's say filtered by external thing. Danda, no danda. This guy Shikha is whiter than that guy, so then I should offer him the arti first, then you start with the whitest Shikhas first, when you offer the arti back. And then you go to, if the gray, then you go to the gray one, then the black one, like that, So naturally, we have an external, naturally, it's just the way things are. We may not know everybody in the temple room, but then we have to look, okay, Danda goes first, then the whitest Shikhas, like that, we kind of get a sense, right? So how are we supposed to be seeing it correctly when the purity may be hidden? One, like Jad Bharat. Second, the impurity may be decorated nicely. And even very exalted souls may appear to be ordinary or broken or even strange. Most of us judge by symbols, not by substance. And the Bhagavatam repeatedly shows, like you saw Jad Bharat, this instinct fails. It fails. Vritrasura, big, ugly, nasty demon, but he was a Mahabhagavata. His prayers are exalted. Let's look at some of the examples, right? We've been talking about Jai Vijay. They were not demons. They were great servants of the Lord. Their mistake was not cruelty. Demons are cruel, but they were not cruel. Their mistake was misplaced discrimination. You're supposed to discriminate. But instead of discriminating on the right reason that this pure devotee, let them in, this one is not pure, to stay out, they used external discrimination, like a racial kind of discrimination, you say. They're judging based on protocol, they're judging based on appearances, and so on. So this teaching us something that we could be even serving in Vaikuntha and still misread a pure heart. And that's the heart of your question. How, if Jai Vijay in Vaikuntha can make that mistake, who are we? Jad Bharat, you mentioned, externally mute, dumb, lazy, foolish. But internally, he's completely absorbed in the Lord, free from ego, fearless, unattached. Why was he misjudged? Because he refused to advertise his realization. See, he didn't want to advertise it. In fact, intentionally. So, of course, what is the lesson here? That this absence of spiritual decoration like dandas and nice tilak, everything, does not imply absence of spirituality. That we know. We learn from that. The Bhagavatam is teaching us that. Rupa and Sanatan, same thing. Even learned Brahmanas didn't recognize them. They're seen as fallen ministers, joined the Muslims, became outcast, or beggars or something, and yet they were the architects of our sampradaya. I mean, look at what they wrote. Whew. They're the reservoir of bhakti rasa. They're the empowered instruments of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, substance was hidden behind their humility. So now, our dilemma is very real. Who do we offer respect to? You said when I offer, sannyasi, immediate obeisances. And the devotee is not sannyasi, so maybe not so. Maybe from once in a while it's okay. This is not hypocrisy. This is how our dharmic duties, they basically work in a conditioned society. It's just the way it is. So, how do we solve this paradox? It's a paradox. It's a very good question you bring. So there's external respect. There are two dharmas. One is called vyavahar. Vyavahar means how we relate with each other. Vyavaharik dharma, which is external dharma. Shastras and even our culture, our Vedic culture, teaches us to honor sannyasis by default. Don't need to judge, oh, this sannyasi, I don't know, he looks young, maybe he's not that great. No, sannyasi means you offer. Guru position we offer. Some seniority in their service you offer. Some institutional responsibility they've taken. So we offer respect to all these. Why? Because society cannot function just on inner realizations. You have to offer the structural respect too. You have to just do it by default. So you don't hold back on your respect. And we have to recognize we don't have the eyes to see the hearts very reliably. We can't assume, I have just a good sense, some people have a good sense. No, don't. Some people think they have a good sense and they misjudge people. So offering respects to a sannyasi is correct, always. That's never wrong. It's never wrong. Even if later it turns out he fell down, doesn't matter. You're respecting the ashram. You're not claiming infallibility for him or for yourself. You're respecting the ashram. So you can't go wrong with that. Offer respect. It's not blindness. This is obedience to the dharmic principle. Vyavaharik dharma. And Prabhupada upheld this structure consistently. Now, the other dharma or the other vision is called internal vision or paramarthik. So this vyavaharik and paramarthik. Okay, paramartha. Paramartha means the highest benefit, which is spiritual platform. So it's paramarthik buddhi. Paramarthik buddhi means internally we understand we don't equate dress with depth. We know that from experience and also we know it from Shastra. Dress doesn't mean depth. It just means dress. We respect the dress, no problem. Also, we don't equate charisma with purity. Some people are very charismatic, the way they smile and they carry themselves and they walk really slow, like they're floating in the air, whatever. Incredible. And later on, it turns out they've been abusing people for a long, long time. Just very charismatic. That doesn't mean purity. We have seen many examples of that. I'm not even talking about in Vaishnava circles, even the non-Vaishnava circles, all these babas and all the incredibly charismatic, like you in their presence, you're like, wow, look at this guy, He has this big afro and he's like giving like miracles and, we've seen those kind of people, right? But we know that it's not pure. Also, we don't equate role with realization. They may have a very responsible role, but doesn't mean they're realized, deeply. They're just very good at their role. They're excellent managers, or whatever it is. Why am I bringing this up? This is where our humility will protect us. Internally, we have to understand this. I do not know who is advanced. I will honor the roles. Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. GBC. We honor them. Sincerely. Because they've done stuff. And they're taking responsibility. But I will not mythologize personalities. Because I know I don't want to fall in that trap. This is a myth. Like this is, this is God's greatest gift to us. Just look at the way he walks and stuff. Look at the way he smiles. We don't need to mythologize personalities just because they have charisma. You don't need to fall in that trap. We have to respect always. And also recognize that, hey, I don't know who's advanced. Maybe that person is very advanced. So I'm not going to make a judgment. I'm just going to assume I'm going to offer respects according to their roles, according to their age. And besides, if you look at the 3 levels of devotees, right, that Rupa Goswami says, Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. Even Kanishta, which is the lowest, what does he say we should do? We should offer respect from a distance. So respect is a default given that protects us from offense. We should never, like you said, what if someone's very pure but I don't offer them proper respect? At least if you offer baseline respect, you protect yourself from that offense. But disrespect there's no place for disrespect in our culture. So what does this attitude protect us from? Understanding of the vyavaharik, which is external, and the paramarthik. If we understand both and we respect accordingly, it protects us from falling in the trap of idol worship. It protects us from completely being devastated when someone falls down. Like completely crushed. I can't even do this Krishna conscious thing anymore. This person fell down. I don't think the process works. I can't believe it. So it protects us from that. And there are people who are devastated to that level. Yeah. And it protects us from cynicism when the appearances collapse. Like you can see the person taking off the mask and really, being a real jerk. And then when he's in public, he's like, oh, I'll talk like this. Sometimes we see a glimpse behind the scenes and like, oh my God. And we become cynical. We don't want to become cynical of the process. We don't want to be cynical of the culture. We don't want to become, when I say cynical, means we lose our faith in it. So when we understand the both levels, Vyavaharik and Paramarthik, we offer respects at all levels properly, while understanding that, dress is not depth and charisma is not purity necessarily. If you understand all the differences between these things, then we protect ourselves because we've seen it. We've seen it all, and we still maintain respect for everybody. So my point, what is the bottom line? We offer respect broadly. Give honor generously. There's nothing wrong giving honor. Don't withhold respect just because someone is externally ordinary. I've seen, even very junior devotees, I've seen other advanced devotees offer them so much love and respect. Offer obeisances and things like that. Even though the guy just joined last month. Yeah. You offer respect broadly, but you trust slowly. Your trust level is not a disrespect. Trust is discernment. See? One time I'll tell you a story. Prabhupada, he'd locked his little closet cupboard and he took the key out of his pocket and he locked it. Like he'd taken some checks and funds and he'd put in there and he locked it. He put his key in his bead bag or something. And he closed it and there was like 5-6 sannyasis. He says, I'm keeping this key. I don't trust any of you. It's like his most senior devotees, He's teaching us something. He said you trust gradually. Trust is a part of your discernment. Don't be gullible. And then you evaluate people, you evaluate devotees by their fruits, not their costumes. Look at what are the fruits? Their consistency, their humility, their freedom from tendency to exploit others, their ability to even be corrected. I've seen leaders, they take correction so humbly, like genuinely. I live to be corrected, thank you. And they accept that correction. And these are big leaders. I'm impressed by that. I look at long-term steadiness. This is what we want to look at. We don't want to be swayed by eloquence. Oh, he speaks so well. No. We don't want to be impressed by status or a following. Oh, he has such a big following. Or the theater of austerity. These are not important. It's the inner things that are important. So if I feel confused, whenever we feel confused, we take this posture. I may be wrong. Krishna sees clearly. I will respect the dharma externally and I will depend on my humility internally. This prevents offenses and fanaticism. See? So that's why these stories, these Bhagavatam stories, they're meant to teach us exactly what you're saying, to distinguish the elements here. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Oh, very, very, very much. Yes. I've learned, and I believe devotees also, we've all learned so much from the response. Prabhuji, I believe that as Vaishnava devotees, we have the opportunity to excel in virtue over those who are non-devotees. But I see sometimes how we fall short. We actually, excuse me to say, not on the same level as non-devotees. In the material world, there are many great musicians, but in our present age, they all see Michael Jackson as the king of pop. That's how they call him. All Rastafarians see
Bob Marley.
Marley
Yeah,
as the king of reggae.
sure.
In boxing, everybody sees Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, right.
Yes. But when it comes to our spiritual practices, it's so difficult for us to accept a personality like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada as the one that the Supreme Lord selected to spread his name, glories all over the world. It's so hard for us to accept that. And I do not understand why that is the case. We see these Sananda Sunanda Kumaris. Prabhupada indicated in the purport that these four are headed by Sanak. Sanak.
Sanak.
Yes. But when we talk of the four Kumaras, we oftentimes refer to Sanat Kumara. We don't really refer to Sanat Kumara. What's the name? Rupas Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami is older than Rupa Goswami.
Yes.
He is the head of the Goswamis. Yet when we talk about the Goswamis, we talk more of Rupa Goswami than Sanatana. Yes. And I do not think Sanatana take any offense at that. Jiva Goswami is a nephew, and he is such a prolific writer. The six Goswamis, they all recognize that, but sometimes in our movement, we just cannot accept a junior devotee who is so good, so excellent in one particular field. We always want to say, like in my zone, we say parampara. This person is a senior, so he should be the only person to receive all recognition. But like I'm saying, even in the material world, they do not see and operate that way. So what is the problem? If there is a problem, if it is, which I think it is, why that is the case with us as devotees, that we cannot recognize the potential a particular devotee has or has demonstrated, and recognize and accept that. But we always say, this person is senior devotee, he is this, he is that, we have to give him recognition. The other person, we don't care about.
Yes, thank you. One thing you mentioned about Prabhupada, that we don't give enough deference to Srila Prabhupada. That's a fact. No matter how much deference we give, it'll never be enough. He's so great. We'll never be able to worship him enough. It's not possible. Even if I were to worship him day and night, it's not enough. We should, one thing is I've seen in ISKCON in the last maybe say 20 years or so, is that devotees have come, they read Bhagavatam, they read Chaitanya Charitamrita, they've read Bhagavad Gita, everything, but they've not read Prabhupada Lilamrita. How can you be in ISKCON and not read Prabhupada Lilamrita? It's unacceptable. So if you read Prabhupada Lilamrita, you read other books, there are many books by Prabhupada disciples about Srila Prabhupada. If you read those, then he'll be our Michael Jackson, Muhammad Ali, Bob Marley. Then we will want to print out big posters and put them all over our room of Prabhupada, like spontaneously, and just adore him, like just adore him for half an hour. How beautiful, amazing what you did in New York, just phenomenal what you did in San Francisco. That's how our love should be. But we don't read his leelas. So then, how did Rukmini fall in love with Krishna? She'd never seen him. But just hearing about his glory, she fell in love. She said, I can't help I'm completely in love with you. What do you mean? You never even seen me, you never met me. It doesn't matter. I heard about you. So we can be in as much love of Prabhupada as those who are his direct disciples, if we read and hear about him, because he is that great. So that's, I think, very, very important for us to do, is to bring Prabhupada in the center in our lives. And then the other aspect of, if I remember your question correctly, is someone who's young but is very talented, very sincere, very genuine. But just because he's younger, we don't promote him. Or we think, oh, it's just too early for him. Maybe let him wait another 20 years, 25 years, then maybe we'll give him some position. But that devotee is actually better, 100 times better than the persons who are in charge right now. In many ways, in their humility, in the depth of understanding. It's possible in their last life they must have been a great, fantastic devotee, and just continue. We should recognize their merits and promote that. And maybe instead of 20 years, promote them in 2 years or 1 year. Groom them into the role. Because you see that this is, look at Prabhupada's early days. 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old devotees are opening temples and becoming presidents and running the whole show. These are kids. And they're very successful. And now we have the certain standards that, no, you have to be at least 55 or whatever. And same thing's happening. But again, we come to Bhagavatam. What do we learn from Bhagavatam? Look at the cover or the inside cover of every Bhagavatam. You have Parikshit Maharaj, you have all the sages, including Vyasadeva, and other sages came from far away, and they're sitting down listening to a teenage boy, Shukadeva Goswami. Why? Well, even he's his son, Vyasadeva's son. Still, Vyasadeva is sitting in the audience, and Sukadeva is sitting in a higher seat. How's that? Isn't that a breach of etiquette? In front of your father, you sit up like this? No. And even the seat that he's sitting on is called what? Vyasa-san. Vyasa-san. That's the seat of Vyasa. Vyasa is sitting on the floor. The son of Vyasa is sitting on Vyasa-san. How is that? Why? The Bhagavatam is teaching us again. Don't discriminate based on age. Look at the qualification. Look at the depth of purity. He demonstrated his purity, that he's even more pure than Vyasadeva. Demonstrated when he passed by those ladies who were bathing, they didn't bother to cover themselves. They just sensed that he is completely pure. They just sensed it. He is exuding that. But when Vyasadeva came, then they covered themselves. That's so your point is very valid. Why do we do that? One, because we have this mindset that you have to be, how can it be possible that such a young person can do it? That's a mindset. Second, which is a more nefarious one, is also possible. We feel threatened. In fact, even in the corporate world, people do that. Managers, when they have interviews and they interview 10 people, and one of them is really, really good, and the other one is pretty okay, they won't hire the really good one. You know why? They're afraid this guy within 2 months will take my job. He's that good. I know it. I can tell from the interview, if he comes here, he'll take my job, and in 2 years, he'll be CEO of the company. It's a kind of a threat. People feel threatened by competence. They feel threatened by genuine good qualities. And that threat shows the bad quality in us. Instead of bringing that person is going to put my temple on the map. But I'm not going to do it because it means that there'll be less respect from me. You see? So these insecurities also, I'm just telling you honestly, these are real things that happen in the world. You've seen them, you feel them. And so, to answer your question, why does this happen? This is the reason. But we should not ourselves do that. We should look for ways to promote the purity of intent here.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Of course, as always, Prabhuji, I am nobody in ISKCON and in anything or anywhere. But I wish and hope that someday in the very, very near future, ISKCON worldwide will make it its policy that Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita must be studied in all temples amongst all devotees.
Yeah.
Because if we do not study Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, how do we actually understand the Pandara Acharya that we are trying to follow? And it's so beautiful. I put a link in the chat room there, devotees. Namras had this beautiful podcast with His Holiness Sasarup, Das Goswami Maharaj, your Gurudev. And it's so sweet, it's so beautiful. Krishna bless them for hosting Maharaj, and Maharaj also being present to speak. Of course, I didn't even realize until I listened to that podcast that Maharaj is the senior most disciple of Srila Prabhupada left on the planet.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, he's 86 years old, but besides his age, he's also the senior most.
The senior most, yes.
Senior most living disciple of Srila Prabhupada in terms of when they got initiated. I mean, they got initiated before ISKCON was formed.
Yes. I learned so much, and to me, this is my own, the way I frame my mind. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, to me, is Canto 13 of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
It's so sweet. And I was fortunate, my temple leader at the time, we had what we used to call Prabhupada night. So every Friday, when we do Sundar Arti, devotees keep awake till Mangarati. And from after Sundarati, after we've discussed Bhagavad Gita, then we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. This is how we all fell in love with.
Yes,
Srila
this is very important. I think every temple should have some Prabhupada. I know when I used to go in Philadelphia. During breakfast, all the devotees sit together for breakfast, and one devotee will read Prabhupada Lilamrita while they're eating breakfast, like every day. Because that's why you don't have to make extra time or put a schedule, because then people have to like make time for it. You're already eating breakfast together anyway. So while breakfast is being taken, you read Prabhupada Lilamrita every single day. It's a very beautiful way of doing it. At least you force it. I think, like how we have the ISKCON Disciples course, there should be a condensed version of Prabhupada Lilamrita course, maybe like a 2-day thing, 3-day thing, like a crash course that should be required for initiation. How can you get initiated? Don't you know Prabhupada, where he was born or when he came to America? That's not acceptable.
No, it's not.
You can't assume that everybody knows just because they're coming to ISKCON for a couple of years. People don't have time to read these things. No. We're not ashram community anymore. So it doesn't happen by osmosis. Osmosis is not to be relied upon. Yes. That's why they created the Disciples course, because things that are understood in ashram, you see, that those things are not happening right now because there's no osmosis happening. So your point is very well taken. I really think they should propose it, a condensed version of that, or incorporate it as the 5th book in the Bhakti Shastri course. Everybody who does Bhakti Shastri has to do a condensed version of Prabhupada Lilamrita and take an exam on it. Only then you get Bhakti Shastri degree, something like that. It has to happen. It's a very good
point. Yes, thank you so much. Well, Prabhuji, we thank you so much. Dear devotees, we're wrapping things up. Does anyone have something to say or to ask before we call it a day? We thank you all so much. Prabhuji, you see, I have Mother Ladini here. From time to time, I miss her. I wish I could miss her every single minute. But this is a very unique soul. And I don't know what to say, but we're very fortunate that this great soul came to our region and helped establish Krishna consciousness in West Africa.
West Africa, yes.
So, Prabhuji, if you may give us a concluding remark, and then we will bring this to a final close. I say you've overfed the devotees. Seems everybody is full already. So everybody is quiet. If you may give some concluding remark, and then we'll bring this to a final close. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, so the lesson we learned in today's class, we all want to go to the spiritual world. We want to go to Goloka. that plane, that dimension, that world is not entered by force. It's entered by the plainness of our heart, fitness of our heart. Transparency, freedom from duplicity. If we cultivate this sort of heart, then the doors of Vaikuntha will open naturally for us. And you'll see Jai Vijay, but they've learned the lesson, so they don't block you, don't worry. And mercy will find us without effort. But we have to cultivate that freedom from duplicity. Because at the end of life, what is our charisma going to help us on our deathbed? Well, what is our different masks, how they're going to help us? So let us work on that as we chant and pray to the Lord. Please save us from our own rascaldom. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all with one heart, one love, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our revered speaker, His Grace Madam Gopal, for sharing his love and wisdom with us all. Please, you may all unmute Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Praise Madan Gopal Prabhu ki jai. Jagat Guru Krishna Prabhupada ki jai. All sorts of Samud Vaishnavi devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna.